Militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sa Jeevam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome back to Caitanya Caritamrita class. So today we're going to be continuing our discussion through the Rai Ramananda Samvad. This is the third day in the row now before we go off for our break again in between classes. And so I won't summarize too much what we've been going over because we've only just recently had a recap yesterday. However, I'll give some rough idea again where we were up to. So again, we began initially. What is the absolute goal of life? What is the goal of life? And then this is asked by Mahaprabhu to Rai Ramananda. And Ramananda Rai, he begins Varnashram, and then offering all of one's material activities to Krishna. And all of this gets rejected. Eho bahyo, age koho aar. All of this is external to the devotional purport. Then we go a little further on, and we are entering now into the more jnana areas. We have exited the areas of material activities, and now we are getting more into the range and domain of jnana, of that sort of realization. And these are the sort of things like sarva dharman parityaja, completely abandoning material activities, completely abandoning material religion, completely abandoning anything and letting go. But this as well is just a negation of material existence. It is not an embracing of spiritual life, which can only be tasted properly through devotional service. And so then Ramananda Rai, he proposes Jnana Mishra Bhakti, putting in some bhakti, mixing it in with the jnana. Because of course, as I said, spiritual life requires bhakti. But in order to truly be within that domain, it cannot be Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Because Jnana Mishra Bhakti, bhakti mixed with jnana, is still only going to bring one to the goals of Jnana Yoga. So because of this, also this was said, Eho bahyo, age koho aar. Speak something more. Why? Because this is still external. So then, we go a little further. And going a little further, we hear of what? We hear of jnana shunya bhakti. Bhakti devoid of jnana. Bhakti devoid of any other influence. And this is accepted by Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu says, Eho hoi. But Srila Prabhupada, he properly conveys the attitude that Mahaprabhu has. Mahaprabhu is not exactly thrilled with this option. He's not really over the moon. He's saying, this is all right. We've at least entered into what the nature of spiritual life is. But there is more that could be said. So then Mahaprabhu, he says, Age koho aar. Eho hoi. Age koho aar. And then he goes a little further. Ramananda Rai, he then says, well then, it is not just Jnana Shunya Bhakti, because even one who has not yet achieved perfection can execute Jnana Shunya Bhakti. So then he says, maybe then it is Prema Bhakti. Prema Bhakti surely is the goal of life. Prema Bhakti according to the principles of the Rag Marg. This is the ultimate goal of life. However, Mahaprabhu, he still says, Eho hoi, this is it. We still have some more to go. There is still some distance left. So then Ramananda Rai, he says, okay, Prema Bhakti, that is maybe not fully there, but there is something more. We can flavor this Prema Bhakti with Dasya Prem, spontaneous devotional love for the Supreme Lord in the pure mood of a servant. And now this is getting very close, because now we have Prema, the highest emotion. Prema according to the Rag Marg, according to spontaneous acts of devotion in the heart. Even higher, we have all of that. But now it has taken shape. Because you need shape in order to really grasp onto the Lord. There needs to be mamata, a sense of mind. In order for that bond of devotion to be there, there needs to be a holding on. It cannot just be a passive love for the Supreme Lord. There must be a flavor, there must be an expression. In order for the Lord to take form in one's heart, one has to love the Lord in a certain form. There needs to be a form to the love. There needs to be a specific shape that the love can take. Not just a vague, homogeneous love, but a very precise love which speaks of one's true spiritual ego, the transformation of one's material false ego, which we so much are against. The false ego identifying with this filthy body of pus and urine and mucus and all of these revolting things, stool, whatever. No longer identifying with this, but identifying then with a true identity. And then mamata is fine. And then having a preference for something is fine. And with that preference then, now the Lord can come closer. With this mamata there can be some intimacy. So, there is still some mood, there's still some more. There's still some more space to move, however. Why? Because Mahaprabhu, what does he say? He says, Eho hoi, this is all right. Kichu age ar. There is a tiny bit more that you can go. Because this is fine. Now we are really practically experiencing and witnessing what is a really successful goal in life, what is a really relishable position for the devotee to have. But we are still external to the globe of Golok. Golok does not have within itself Shuddha Dasya. It does not have the pure servitude, because the pure servitude, as Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport, still has a level of fear. And that is a fear that is not present in the next answer that Ramananda Rai gives. He says, Sakhya Prem, love in the mood of a friend. This no longer has that level of fear, that level of reverence, of reverential love to my great master. No, the Gopas, they are playing with Krishna, they are wrestling with Krishna, they are having so much fun. Actually, soon we will be having Kartik. And during this time, we are honoring the Damodar pastime. And we will often speak of Mother Yashoda binding Krishna. This is the great Damodar means that Lord who is bound up. And so we'll speak of how Mother Yashoda so sweetly bound him up, and we will actually speak a little bit more about that later today, in today's Caitanya Caritamrita class. However, everyone in Golok is binding up Krishna. And how can they do it? Because by seeing with equanimity, with a level of equality, that Krishna, he is the same as me. I love him more than I love anyone else. I love him more than I love even myself, but still he's on the same platform. Krishna is not Bhagavan. Krishna is like my friend, you know. This was the mood. When Uddhav, we spoke quite a few months ago even, when Uddhav came to Vrindavan, he was speaking to Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj, he was expressing his grief to Uddhav. He was expressing his grief, and he was saying, you know, who is feeding Krishna? I don't think Krishna can eat. Madhya Yashoda, she cannot even speak. She is so upset. Nanda Maharaj is saying, who's taking care of him? How is he managing himself? I'm so heartbroken thinking my son is out there. I don't know. What can I do? No, even even the Supreme Lord's parents, even for the Supreme Lord, his parents are still always finding that he is their little baby. So he's worried like this. And Uddhav, he's a bit, he's impressed, but then he's a bit confused, and he tells Nanda Maharaj, he says, look, I understand this whole Vatsalya Ras thing, although I really don't, but even then, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Nanda Maharaj, he looks at him and he says, hey, I'm a Vaishya. I'm a cow. I'm taking care of cows. I'm an agricultural farmer. I didn't go to all the fancy universities that you went to, Uddhav. You're meant to be a genius. You're meant to be so intelligent. You're meant to be the smartest of people, coming from the city, all fancy with your PhD, and you're working so high up in the government. You're meant to be so intelligent, and you're saying nonsense like this? Even I am more intelligent than you, saying such nonsense. Krishna? Krishna is an avatar of the Supreme Lord. Obviously, Krishna is not even an avatar of the Supreme Lord. He is the avatari from whom all the avatars come. But Nanda Maharaj wouldn't even accept that he is an avatar. He said, forget about being Swayam Bhagavan. He could not even be an avatar. Why? Because does the Supreme Lord, we know there's so many symptoms of the Supreme Lord. There are the 6 opulences which we hear of. Does Krishna have any of those? In fact, does Krishna, who is apparently in your worldview the Supreme Lord, does he not get hungry? Does the Supreme Lord get hungry? Does he not get angry when he doesn't get what he wants? Does the Lord either want something, need something, or get angry even if he did when he doesn't get it? Krishna, sometimes he cannot control his bowels or so, and he'll urinate on the floor or something, like as a small child. Is that what the Supreme Lord does? Krishna, he lies. We'll put him in trouble and he'll say lies to get out of trouble. Krishna, he runs around and he's pinching all the people. Is this the symptom of the Supreme Lord? No, Uddhav. You are quite clearly the PhD was wasted on you. Quite clearly your opulent education was wasted. How can Krishna be the Supreme Lord? And because of this mindset, although that is in Vatsalya, at this point in the Rai Ramananda Samvad, we have crossed over into the domain where, because they understand Krishna just to be Krishna, they forget about his godhood because it gets in the way of the intimacy of their love. Because of that, they're able to approach Krishna in a way that conquers Krishna. From Sakya on, it is no longer Krishna who is the master of his devotee, but it is the devotee who is the master of Krishna. So with this mood, with this attitude, in Sakya Ras now, we are finding that they are able to conquer Krishna. So in Damodar pastimes, we will say it's Madhya Yashoda, but also even everyone else is also binding Krishna. Everyone in Golok is binding him because they are treating him with that level of intimacy. They are not so much making him their servant, because they are making themselves his servant, but Krishna is responding by throwing himself at their feet. So even in Sakya Ras, even the Gopas, sometimes they'll play games, Sometimes Krishna, he'll steal some of their food. They'll grab some boys and then he'll steal their food. And Krishna is fast and all them, so he runs off and he eats their food. And so sometimes he'll get his other friends and they'll gang up on one boy who's cooked, his mother has cooked, very nice, maybe kachori or something very nice, but he's cooked some very nice food. Well, his mother has cooked some very nice food for him. And so he brings it and he's very happy, the whole time you can tell he's very eager to eat this. And he's looking and he's thinking, wow, I'm so excited. And then Krishna, he brings all of his friends and they all grab him and they take away his lunchbox from him. And they all grab it and they all start throwing it among themselves, thinking, wow, this and so this boy, he's getting upset and he's running to each boy who has the lunchbox. And whenever he reaches the boy who has the lunchbox, that boy will throw it to the other boy. And then like this he'll be running around. And when he seems to have given up, at that point they'll throw it to Krishna and Krishna will eat it. Like this, they're having boyish, naughty fun. They're being naughty. But so this boy, he's getting very angry one day. One day he thought, I've had enough of this Krishna. Not that he's actually angry, we must understand. This anger is coming from their love. In order for the pastime to happen, they manifest this anger so that the pastime may occur. But anyways, he's getting angry and he's going with some other friends and they're all of the same mindset. You know, this Krishna, who does he think he is? Who does he think he is? Does he think he's a supreme personality of Godhead or something? Like this, they're all talking among themselves, and so they make a plan. And then the next day, Krishna is going. Krishna, you know, he's going, he's having fun. Krishna's playing his flute. All of the whole Golok, he's completely entranced. All of the other beings in the whole universe are begging to only be a particle of dust, where those lotus feet of Krishna are stepping and which are hearing the transcendental sound vibration of his beautiful flute playing. So like this he is going, and he is dancing and going through, and then out of the bushes jump one of the boy, and he's got a vine with him, and with the vine he wraps Krishna up, and Krishna's thinking, what? Krishna's making sure, do I have my lunch on me? And he realizes he's got it. He thought they'd stolen it or something. And then another boy comes out, and Krishna's starting to get an idea what's going on here, with another vine, and they all tie Krishna up. Here again, Krishna is bound by the love of his devotees. Krishna is bound up not just by those in Vatsalya Ras, but those in all of the rasas of Goloka. So like this, he's getting bound up. And then another one of the boys comes out, and then that boy who had enough that few days before, he comes out and he takes Krishna's lunch, which Mother Jashoda has made, and he starts eating it. Krishna becomes very angry, and Krishna's like, hey, that's my lunch. And like that they play, and then at one point they they decide we should end the fight. We're even now. So like this we see an example. Even in Sakyaras, Krishna is bound. This is the glory. Not only is there the mamata, that Krishna is mine, but it is not that he is my master high above me, but he is my friend. So this is that glory. And this is amazing. Mahaprabhu, what does he say when Rai Ramananda is glorifying this? He says, Eho Uttam. He says, this is on the highest platform. But then what else does he say? He says, Age ko ar. There is still more to be spoken. And that is roughly where we got to in the concluding moments yesterday. In the concluding moments yesterday, we were discussing about the next level. And what is that? Vatsalya Prem. Krishna Prem on the Rag Marg according to the mood of parental love. Because who does one think of more? Their friends? Or their child. There is that one extra level of emotion. There is the constant nishta, the constant meditation of Shantaras. There is the mamata, the sense of identification of Dasyaras. There is the intimacy of Sakyaras. And then there is the idea that Krishna is dependent on me. Just like Uddhav's when Uddhav's visit, when Nanda Maharaj was complaining, Jashoda Ma, she's always thinking, how will Krishna eat? How will Krishna take care of himself? So like this is a extra element of the rasa, and therefore it is considered even higher. And so I was discussing a bit, I'll get out the I was discussing the pramanas yesterday, about which were being appealed to. Wrong volume. Which were being appealed to. And they were from Srimad Bhagavatam. And in it, Ramananda Rai, he quotes Shukadev's prayer, and he's saying what pious activities were performed. And we were speaking a little bit. We were speaking a little bit yesterday about how Mother Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj were Drona and Dhara, who are Angshas. And there was some purport to be had from understanding this pastime. And then we will speak a little bit more about the specific nature. So, Drona and Dhara, they had asked Brahma, because this is the way in which one obtains the position of love for Godhead in the mood of Vraj. Maybe we can try some separate means, maybe, to get some other destination, but to get a truly high one, to get that element of Vraj, we need to access it through a devotee. We need to go through a devotee. Of course, Brahma is not a devotee in that mood. So it is slightly different. But still that principle is there. We must be given this by a devotee. Shiva, it is said, when he tried to join the Ras Lila, he was kicked out because of a very specific thought that was had by the gopis who were dancing. They were thinking, someone is here. Someone is here who is not quite the same as us. Not even necessarily because he is a purush, a man, but because there is someone here who has not taken birth from the womb of a gopi. It is only through the devotee, that one gets entrance into Vraj. One must take birth in the womb of a gopi in order to be born into the pastimes of Golok. And therefore, one must approach through a devotee, not independently. If we try to independently ram our way into the Golok, into the pastimes of Vraj, we will be kicked out. So this is the one purport. Another thing that is to be made is the reason why Brahma could give this, even though we might say, well, Brahma, he's not having Vraj Bhakti. Brahma, he is very much having Aishvarya. This is why he was bewildered. We were discussing Brahma Vimohan Lila only a few days ago. He was bewildered in the Brahma Vimohan Lila with all his four heads. They say Vimohan. Not just Mohan, but Vimohan, the extra bewilderment. Because he had four heads to be bewildered with. So the reason why he was bewildered is he has too much Aishvarya. So how could he give this to Drona and Dhara? Actually, it's explained that Brahma, when he spoke, Saraswati on his tongue was the one who said Tatastu. And you might say, well, Saraswati doesn't have this either. But Saraswati is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. And so Srimati Radharani, she empowered her expansion to give access to this. This is how it was possible. Because Saraswati, she is Shakti. She is Shakti of the Lord. Therefore, she was empowered by the Yogamaya, who was allowing all of these pastimes. Yogamaya, she's orchestrating all of the pastimes to happen. So in order to allow this pastime to happen for Drona and Dhara to merge back into the bodies, not to become Jashoda and Nanda, but to merge back into them, she arranged it that Brahma could be empowered on his tongue to give this. But actually it was Saraswati on Brahma's tongue. So this is how that has happened. Now, one may say, well, you're making a comparison, that Drona and Dhara did much better things than Prishni and Sutapa. Not, of course, to say that Prishni and Sutapa are not immensely worshipable. We can give so much worship to them. But you are emphasizing this point. But can we really say that one is better than the other? Aren't they just two flavors? And to understand this, there is a very famous pastime. Today we'll discuss, if time permits, two pastimes which are very much filled with the Vatsalya Ras. So the first one is, we know, very, very famous. One day, Krishna, all of his friends were going to Jashodama, and they were saying, Jashodama, you know what Krishna is doing? He is eating mud. He is eating lots of mud. And Jashodama, she becomes very disturbed. And she goes to Krishna and she says, is this true? And it's said that the reason why she was asking, is this true? Is she was thinking, I make so many sweet, nice preparations for you at home. I cook so nicely for you at home. I know with my mother and with any mother, when the mother is cooked with so much love, and then the child goes to eat something else, even if I get something else, even if I eat something else that anyone else has made, that even if it is nice, even if I just have a fruit or something, my mother, she'll be upset. She's put so much effort. Is her food not good enough? Is there some problem with it? Like this, Mother Jashoda was also thinking, forget about eating other people's food, you are eating mud. Is my food that bad that you would rather eat mud than what I cook for you? So Mother Jashoda, she was feeling like this, and she was asking. Krishna was saying, they're lying. They're not saying the truth. And Mother Jashoda said, hey, come on. Your friends are always trying to get you into trouble. I could absolutely believe it. I would believe it 100% that they were lying. But you know what happens when your friends are always trying to get you in trouble? Balaram, he comes, and Balaram says, no, they are lying. Balaram stands up for you. We were discussing yesterday, Balaram has that element of caring, taking care of Krishna. So Balaram, he stands up for you. You're telling me that Balaram, who is also saying this, Balaram who is always defending you when the other boys are putting you in trouble, this Balaram is lying? This Balaram is making things up to get you in trouble? I cannot believe this. And so, with this, Krishna, he's thinking, now I'm cornered. Now I have no way out. And so, Mother Jashoda, she's trying to get him to open his mouth. We know, I'm just abbreviating the pastime, is a very famous pastime. And Krishna, he opens his mouth. She's getting him to open his mouth. And he opens it, like that. And opening his mouth, actually, we often say that, we often see in paintings that Krishna opens his mouth and all the universes are in his mouth. But actually, in Bhagavatam, or in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Tika, commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, he actually says that she looked all the way down into his stomach. And looking into his stomach, there, she saw everything. All of existence, there. All of existence was there. She of course chased him and everything. Again, I was just abbreviating the pastime. She finds everything. She sees the three modes of material nature personified. She sees all the planetary systems. She sees all of the demigods. She sees the entire earth. And what does she see on the earth? She sees Golok. She sees Golok manifesting as Vrindavan. Because of course, not that she saw the spiritual world, but she saw Vrindavan manifested, Golokera Premadhana. So we know that Goloka, it manifests its atmosphere where Sankirtan is happening, but directly, geographically, it also manifested at Krishna's Bhaumik Leelas on earth. So, on Vrindavan, she saw that, and she saw herself, and it's clarified, it's made clear, it's made very clear that it was not that she saw some illusionary other Jashodama. She didn't see another Mother Jashoda. She didn't see some form that was meant to look like her but actually wasn't her. What she was seeing was directly herself. And then she was getting bewildered and she looked away and she was in shock almost. And in this moment, she was, after being completely shocked, she thought, oh, what do I do? I have been in Maya this whole time. I have been thinking I am this body. I have been thinking I am the wife of Nanda Maharaj. I have been thinking that Krishna is my son. Actually, this is described as an example. Sometimes we'll find people who are not so steady in spiritual life. They'll become very excited, very instantly, just randomly, not out of philosophical reasoning, not outside of the mercy of the, not because of the mercy of the spiritual master, but just out of some event, they'll become instantly excited, instantly inspired, and they'll say, wow, I'm going to chant 158,000 rounds today. I will read Srimad Bhagavatam every night. I'm going to get up at 2 a.m. every morning, but I will be sleeping at 1 a.m. I will be doing like this. Not a single word will leave my mouth which is not directly Sanskrit shlokas from Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam. This will be my heart and soul. I will cut out, if any non-devotee sees me, I will not even look at them. I will merely pass them the book. They'll get so inspired. They'll say, forget about Nirjal Ekadashi. Every moment of my life will be Nirjal. Until I have Krishna Prem, I will never read anything ever again. They'll have these random bursts of aggressive and excessive inspiration for spiritual life. We'll see this often. But they call it PDS, Pure Devotee Syndrome. People often, they will become inspired and they'll think, I'm the next Prabhupada. I will, with my inspiration now, I am a pure devotee and the whole world will be purified by the intensity of my sadhana. And we know with most people like this, they give them a month or two, maybe a year, and unfortunately, maybe we shouldn't laugh. We shouldn't take too much pleasure in such things, but or any pleasure at all. But unfortunately, it is the case that they slow down a bit, and they slow down rather drastically as compared to those people who had steadily, systematically, and under proper guidance increased the level and intensity of their sadhana to a point where maybe they're doing such grand things. So anyways, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he said this is almost an example of this. So Mother Jashoda, she's thinking like this, and she says, I'm constantly under Maya. I should renounce the world. Thinking all of these things, we are just under the influences of the three modes of material nature. We should learn to transcend them. I will now renounce this life. I will become a great renunciate. I will give up. I will become a tyagi. She's thinking like that. And she was saying things in her mind. She was thinking, how could this have happened? Was this some mystical potency? Is Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead? She never actually thought this. It's made clear. But she was playing around. What could explain this vision I had seen? And so like this, she was contemplating and contemplating. And then Krishna began to get worried. Krishna was starting to think, actually, Krishna wasn't thinking, I don't want my devotee to leave. Krishna was thinking, so much absorbed, because in the Vatsalya Ras, it is not just the parent, it is not just Jashoda Ma who thinks, oh, Krishna is dependent on me. Krishna thinks he is dependent on Mother Jashoda. So he's thinking, who will give me hugs? Who will feed me when I'm hungry? Where will I get milk? Where will I get all my food? And he began to get worried, and because of that, Yogamaya was thinking, okay, now I have to do my job. And so she went over Mother Jashoda, and Mother Jashoda instantly, because of this, her heart became filled with her natural Vatsalya prem. Just seeing Krishna, she became filled with so much parental love that instantly she thought, oh, I don't even care what I was thinking, just a stupid thought. And she then began feeding Krishna. Like this, very sweetly, she was taking care of Krishna. And then, in this point, there's a glorification that is made. That same Krishna who is worshipped by all of the yagyas, who all the Vedic literature speak the glory of, that same Krishna is being treated like a child and held in the lap of Mother Jashoda. This is the glory of Mother Jashoda. And actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, this shlok should be the Paribhash Sutra of understanding Vatsalya Prem, and moments like this, when the beauty of Krishna pours over and conquers the Aishvarya, the opulence of Krishna. Because we know Devaki and Vasudev, when Krishna took birth in that prison cell, they saw, and Krishna came out so opulently. They saw all of this and they began to worship, and they saw, here is the Supreme Lord before us. And this is very good. We should be so well as to be able to worship the Supreme Lord as well as they did. But what is higher? And this is the exact point Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes. What does he say? He says, Devaki and Vasudev, they saw the opulence of Krishna and then they worshipped him. And this is great. But the glory of Mother Jashoda, which is even higher than that, is that she saw the opulence of Krishna and then she forgot it. And after having forgotten it, she still nurtured Krishna just as a child. That is the mercy, that is the, not the mercy, that is the glory. That is the glory of Mother Jashoda. That she forgot it, saw through it. So strong was her Vatsalya Prem. She saw through all of it and then nurtured Krishna. In the same way that Arjuna Sakyaras is somewhat mixed with that knowledge that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and yet the Sakyaras of those cowherd friends in Golok who are taking care of the calves with Krishna is filled with the sweetness, the madhurya. In the same way, the Vatsalya Prem, the Vatsalya Prem of Devaki and Vasudev is mixed with that Aishvarya, that knowledge of Krishna as God. But Nanda Maharaj and Jashoda Ma, they do not have this. They would laugh at the idea that Krishna would say he's God. So like this is what's happening. And someone might wonder, how can you have Vatsalya Prem then? You are saying they are Nitya Siddha. They are so high, on such a high level, and they've eternally been on such a high level. What is the point of mentioning this type of sadhana? This type of sadhana, what is the point of mentioning this goal if it is unreachable? If the only two examples you can quote are Drona and Dhara, and they were only already expansions of Nanda Maharaj and Jashoda Ma. What then is the point of mentioning this? Well, actually, predominantly in our line, most perfected devotees are either in the mood of Sakhya Ras or Madhurya Ras. Sakhya Ras is a cowherd friend, or in Madhurya Ras is a gopi or a manjari. Well, manjaris are a type of gopi. We do find some examples of Vatsalya Ras, but it is without a doubt the least common occurring. There are some accounts that Sri Srimad Vamsidas Babaji Maharaj, he was in that mood. Vamsidas Babaji was very much glorified by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada. There is some evidence that he was in this mood, but predominantly the majority are in Madhurya Ras, and then there is a significant minority which are in Sakhya Ras. But generally we shouldn't speak of such things. We should first realize we are not our body before we realize the rasa and mood of the previous acharyas. And because of this, Srila Prabhupada did not reveal his. We should not be so quick to rush into such topics. So we do not, Srila Prabhupada has not revealed it openly. However, our other previous acharyas have more openly revealed their forms and their rasas. So anyways, however, in the Pushti Marg line of the followers of Vallabha, and we know Vallabha, we will read later on, after really getting told what's what by Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after really getting told what's what, he then gets the approval. So this is an endorsed and valid line. Maybe they're not having the full highest conception of Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they have his blessing. And Rupa Goswami, actually in the Nectar of Devotion, he mentions their type of sadhana, and their sadhana is very much filled with Vatsalya Prem. They're very much absorbed in the ideas of Laddu Gopal and, having this love, parental caring love for Krishna. And their line they call Pushti Marg. So what we call Rag Marg or Raganuga, they call Pushti Marg. And what we call Vaidhi Marg, according to the rules of regulations, they call, if I remember correctly, Aishwarya Marg, according to opulence. So they have this distinction as well, and Rupa Goswami, when mentioning it, he does not reject it. He said this is another name for it. So this is in general, they are more cultivating Vatsalya Ras. However, in our line, we are mainly cultivating Madhurya Ras, and in some cases also Sakhya Ras. Anyway, so that is a point to be made. So then, again, but now you're mentioning there is a sadhana for it. So, why? Why, if only, as I said, Madhya Jashoda, only Drona and Dhara, who were Angshas of Madhya Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj, were able to take that position? Well, actually, some of the other older gopis and gopas, they also have some, like aunties and uncles. We know, like aunties and uncles, they are also able to have that mood of love for Krishna. They also take care of him sometimes. And so, one can take that sort of position in order to taste Vatsalya Ras. So then we understand from here, this is a rough idea of the position of Vatsalya Ras. There is one more pastime that I'd like to speak on before we move on then to now the final answer. The final answer that Rai Ramananda has for what is the absolute goal of life. And this is just, I thought, to speak to glorify that great position of Vatsalya, because we spoke about how Sakhya is also having its own form of Damodar, of binding Krishna. So I thought it is good maybe to speak a tiny bit of the Damodar pastime. Because this is a very glorious thing. Sometimes we do not glorify a lot Vatsalya Ras. The other rasas get glorified a bit. But we see here, Rai Ramananda, he is not giving it a secondary or secondary in the sense that it is the second highest in his list, but he's not giving it a lower position. And Mahaprabhu, he says, Eho Uttam. He does, mind you, say Age ko ar. But we will later on get up to what is that age, what is that more to be said. So, we will begin then. I will read from Krishna book mainly as we discuss. Because of course, Nanda Maharaj and Jashoda Ma, they have a very intense love for Krishna. Actually, it's said, Nanda Maharaj was not meant to be the king. Nanda Maharaj was not meant to be king of Vrindavan. Actually, it was meant to be his other brother. But his other brother said, I do not feel qualified for this. Nanda Maharaj, he is much better. He is much more qualified for this position. And Nanda Maharaj, he was actually very, very simple, very renounced. He was completely renounced from material life. So his brother was glorifying him like this. He is very Vedic, very pakka, very proper. He has no attachments to all of the corruptions that being king might give. So I think it is better that he is the king, not me. And everyone was very happy with this arrangement. But after Krishna was born, that very renounced Nanda Maharaj became filled with attachment. He became filled with attachment for Krishna. So we can get an idea, they had such intense love, even such a renounced and pious person, that even his brother were to say, I am not qualified to be king, but he is. We can get an idea of the strength of the realizations from spiritual life that Nanda Maharaj had. But he forgot them all. In actuality, he was realizing the purpose for all of them. But in terms of pastime, he forgot them all when he saw the beautiful face of Krishna. And then suddenly he became completely captured, completely absorbed, completely attached to family life. So, we'll begin. Srila Prabhupada begins the story of the binding, the Damodar binding of Krishna so sweetly. Mother Jashoda binds Lord Krishna as the name, the 9th chapter of Krishna book, which also correlates with the 9th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he begins very sweetly. Very often I find reading Krishna book, you feel like is like a very sweet senior elder relative is speaking nice sweet stories to you. It's very touching and intimate Krishna book. Actually, it is so sweet to hear the whole 10th canto of Bhagavatam being spoken through the mouth of a Mahabhagavat devotee. Of Srila Prabhupada, it is not that he is reinventing Bhagavatam, but we are hearing again Bhagavatam being spoken, reinvented into the English language. It is being spoken again to us, because the Mahabhagavat, the person Bhagavat, what he speaks is Bhagavatam. So it is very nice. The English language was virtually a useless language. There was no value to it until Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada and all of the other great devotees following in their line, until they began producing transcendental literature in English. The English language was useless, worthless. But now it is a glorious language. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada, he has given us Bhagavatam. He has given us Krishna Katha. He has given us a full account within the terms of the English language of Krishna's pastimes. And now we can no longer insult the English language, because the English language has been sanctified by the pure devotee of Krishna. So, how does he begin? So sweetly he begins, again, like a sweet relative or someone speaking a story. He says, once upon a time, seeing that her maidservant was engaged in different household duties, Mother Jashoda personally took charge of churning butter. And while she churned butter, she sang the childhood pastimes of Krishna and enjoyed thinking of her son. Now there's a few points to be made here. I'm mainly making these points from some comments I heard from my very knowledgeable and senior godbrother, His Grace Hari Parshad Prabhu, from the commentaries of Hari Suri, also known as Hari Sauri. So, and in that, he clarifies that, why were all the maidservants gone? So, we can see here that Mother Jashoda, she's taking to the churning of this butter. And while churning it, she's very much absorbed in her Vatsalya Prem. So we're seeing here the glories, everything she's doing, constantly thinking of Krishna. Actually, even when we do seva, it's not enough just to think, I am washing the pots, I am cleaning the temple room, I'm doing all these menial services, and then I'm thinking, what did I watch TV last night? Oh, this pot looks cool. Oh, I wonder what I'm going to have for dinner. Hey, what did I do at work today? Oh, what's for work tomorrow? No, when doing seva, one should be thinking and chanting and glorifying Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's qualities and Krishna's name. So while she is doing this, while she is giving this example, it is not just to give this example that she is doing this. There is actually another reason why all her maidservants are gone. Because what day is it that the Damodar pastime is celebrated? We know. Diwali. And what is Diwali the day before? Diwali is the day before Govardhan Puja. So Govardhan Puja, that is happening the day after Diwali, which is the day after the Damodar pastimes. I don't think we'll have enough time to get through this whole pastime, so next week we will have to conclude this pastime, and then we will hear of the highest answer that Rai Ramananda had. But anyways, so because of that, because Govardhan Puja we always celebrate the day after Diwali, celebrating it the day after, the day before, which is Diwali, there must be some preparations also being done. That's a bit of a combo, 2 days in a row, a bit like Janmashtami and Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja. It's not that in the build-up to Janmashtami, we only prepare for Janmashtami, and then after Janmashtami, we're rushing for the 4 or 5 hours we have to prepare then for Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja. Actually, so both must be prepared for, and so that's double the preparation work. So all her maidservants were probably out preparing for all of the big preparations that are needed to be done. So at that point, they're all preparing. And the end of her sari was tightly wrapped while she churned. And on account of her intense love for her son, milk automatically dripped from her breasts, which moved as she labored very hard, churning with 2 hands. The bangles and bracelets on her hands tinkled as they touched each other, and her earrings and breasts shook. There were drops of perspiration on her face, and the flower garland which was on her head scattered here and there. Before this picturesque sight, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. He felt hungry, and to increase his mother's love, he wanted her to stop churning. He indicated that her first business was to let him suck her breast, and then she could churn butter later. So there's a few points here. Krishna had actually slept in. That's why he had not been fed earlier. Krishna actually, it is described, Krishna, he comes in, he does not necessarily come in the Sun dynasty, and that is because he is always sleeping in. Krishna is always late. Krishna is always sleeping in, having a nice time, being late. And actually this explains, sometimes it is joked, why are Indians always late? My mother, she often says this. My mother is obviously Indian, that's why she's allowed to say this. She says, IST, Indian Standard Time, shouldn't stand for Indian Standard Time. It should stand for Indian Stretchable Time, because always the time is being stretched around. So it is said, the reason why this is so is because evam parampara praptam. Because of the parampara science, Krishna, he manifested his pastimes in India, and so all the Indians have picked up his attitude of not being so observant with time. So like this, Krishna, he is late. And actually, Krishna, it is said, he sends the message that he wants to be fed by having the childlike audacity to grab the stick which with Mother Jashoda she was churning with, and grabbing it like this, he stopped it. And actually this is a very intense thing, but as a child he thought, no, I will stop this because I am hungry. So he grabs the stick, and there is some secret purport to this as well. Because this activity of churning, what is this activity of churning? This activity of churning, it is very much the behavior of people who are doing things for karma. This is work. It is not that Madhya Jashoda was doing karma, she was doing pastime. But we can say this sort of activity, this sort of labor, is really representing the hard material works of material life. And when Krishna grabs the stick to stop it, he is sending a very clear message. Not only is he sending the clear message, the higher message to Madhya Jashoda, that actually, I am hungry, I want to be eaten, but there's also another message being sent to those of us who are hearing this pastime. That when those people who are the devotees of Krishna, who have love for Krishna, when they have that love for Krishna, Krishna is captured by that love, and captured by that love, he grabs whatever activities people are doing because he wants to be fed by that love, and he said, this is enough. Enough of you spending so much time laboring like an animal, like a rat, in doing all of this work, so constantly laboring for money to take care of this and that and all of the pains of material existence. I've had enough. Stop. I want to taste your devotion. I want to taste your love. And so Krishna, because of this, he grabs onto that and he says, enough. Bas, enough is enough. Stop this activity now. So Krishna, like this, he was sending the message. And so Madhya Jashoda, she says, okay. So Madhya Jashoda then, we continue with Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. She took her son on her lap and pushed the nipple of her breast into his mouth. And while Krishna was sucking the milk, she was smiling, enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Suddenly, the milk, which was on the stove, began to boil over. Just to stop the milk from spilling, Madhya Jashoda at once put Krishna aside and went to the stove. Left in that state by his mother, Krishna became very angry, and his lips and eyes became red in rage. We'll stop here for another point, because there can be a question about why this happened. There is a detail in every single part of Krishna Lila, and especially Hari Suri has written such wonderful commentaries explaining all of those details. My revered spiritual master, His Holiness Sri Srimad Radha Govinda Das Goswami Maharaj, he says actually that in the commentaries of Hari Suri we will find explanations for every tiny detail of Krishna Lila. Hari Suri has written in his commentaries, he has written a commentary in 10th canto of all of the Vrindavan pastimes. Once a Krura comes to take Krishna out, then the commentary is stopped. But he's written for every single detail, he has given a reason. And there are two reasons that are given for why the milk boiled over. First thing to understand, we must understand that even though it seems to be like earth as we know it, Golok Vrindavan and Vrindavan, in Golok Vrindavan, when it is manifesting on earth, it is not at all acting like the way the earth acts here. The milk that we know is just, is a mixture of like the cow's fats and all with water. But the milk there is a personality. Every single rock is a personality. Every single blade of grass is a personality. It is said Uddhav, he took birth as a blade of grass in Golok. Every single Gulab Jamun is a personality. The rope which Krishna will soon be tied with is a personality. The flute is a personality. The trees are personality. Everyone is Satchit Ananda. Everything is composed of this spiritual potency. So everything is a personality in Vraj Lila. So this milk, it poured out for a special reason. And the reason was the milk thought, I wish to end my life. I want to end my life. This is the first reason that's given. Why? Because it's said in Shastra. We know in Bhagavatam it speaks. When Bhishma is passing away, he's speaking all the glories in that chapter. What is it? 8th, 9th chapter, 1st canto. Anyways, in that chapter, and he's saying, on this battlefield, everyone, they are receiving their Swarup, going to Vaikuntha, just because they've seen Krishna. And this milk, it is in the flame. It is being boiled. And it's thinking, so terrible is my life. So unfortunate is my condition. Because I am seeing Krishna before me right now. But still the pains of this material existence, the pains of me boiling, they're going on and on and on and on. Still I am being tortured like this. So I will jump into the fire. My life, there is no hope for me. Even the darshan of Krishna is not liberating me from the terrible condition of being boiled constantly. And so I will end my existence. The other reason that is given is that when Krishna was being fed by Mother Yashoda from the milk from her breasts, he was getting jealous. This milk was getting jealous. Actually, the word that is used is the word of the god brother. And he's saying, this god brother of mine, the breast milk of Mother Yashoda, Krishna is hankering so much to taste that, and he is not hankering to taste me. In the same way that sometimes I have so many god brothers, virtually all of my god brothers are much more advanced than I am, miles ahead of me in everything, in knowledge, in their sadhana, in everything, in all of their abilities. Virtually all of my god brothers are infinitely more senior to me. And so sometimes, and virtually every devotee has this situation where they have devotees who are much, much more advanced than them and who are their god brothers. And sometimes devotees, if they are not being careful to pull out all the weeds in their heart, they will see some of their senior god brothers and they'll become jealous. How has he got all of Gurudev's mercy? He has advanced so much. All of the attention is always on him. They're thinking like this. And because they're thinking like this, they become jealous and they become destroyed. In the same way, the milk was having these thoughts of jealousy about the milk, instead of thinking of the breast milk of Mother Yashoda. Instead of thinking, wow, it's so amazing that I have this elevated person, this elevated other personality is able to please Krishna. He is thinking, oh, why is it the breast milk? Why is it not me? And so, as a punishment, he is being flung into the fire. And these are the two reasons Hari Sauri gives, but obviously we also need to think there is always a third reason for the pastimes of Krishna. Things happen so that Krishna's pastimes can happen. Also, we shouldn't think too much, why is this, why is that? We should relish the beauty. But sometimes the reasons can let us relish the pastime even more, which is why such great Mahabhagavad devotees such as Hari Suri have given their great commentaries. So, like this, it begins to boil over. And Krishna, he becomes very angry. And what does he do? He presses his teeth and lips. And he bites. Like this. It said he bites down on his bottom lip. And taking a piece of stone, he immediately breaks the butter pot. He takes the butter out of it, and with false tears in his eyes, he begins to eat the butter in a secluded place. So, because of this, Krishna, he becomes very angry. And one can say, why did he bite his bottom lip? Why did he go, like this? And the reason why is because normally when a child is angry, or even when anyone's angry, sometimes when I'm angry, you just want to hit the ground or something. You've seen little children especially, when they get angry and cry, they go, like this. They go, and they start beating the ground with lots of anger. So, like this, Krishna, he had the temptation to be like this, to cry and go, and start beating the ground. But then Krishna thought, we know in the beginning of Krishna book and in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, Bhumi Devi, she is crying out. The earth itself is in pain. The earth itself is in pain of the great force of all of these mischievous atheist kings who are on the earth planet. And so Krishna, he is thinking, I have come to protect the earth. I've come to preserve it. And so how can I hurt Dhara? How can I hurt Dhara, the earth? How can I hurt that earth that I've come down to protect, that I've come down to preserve? So instead, I will hurt Adhara, my bottom lip. So he takes out that anger and set on his bottom lip. Instead of beating the ground, he bites his bottom lip. And with that, he takes out his anger and his frustration in a way that does not violate the reason for his coming. And with that, then we know he breaks the pot and he starts eating the butter. What happens next? We will we will discuss when we continue the Caitanya Caritamrita classes. We will hear about the relevance of this pastime for the point Rai Ramananda is making, and then after that we will begin to hear the final answer that Ramananda Rai has, the conclusive answer, which Mahaprabhu says there is no higher answer than this for what is the ultimate purpose of life. But for now, we will conclude on this cliffhanger of what happens next in Sri Bhagavan Krishna's nectarian pastimes. We will have this little cliffhanger and we will resume those next week when we continue our Caitanya Caritamrita classes. So, Shri Rai Ramananda ki jai, Shri Rai Ramananda Samvad ki jai, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Krishna Das Kaviraj Thakur ki jai, Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Nittai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.